Welcome to the Living Centred podcast, a podcast all about learning together how to live lives which are centred on Jesus. Everyone lives centred on something. Our goal is to learn together how every area of our lives, everything about who we are and how we live, can be increasingly oriented around Jesus and transformed by Jesus. He invites us to a rich and satisfying life, where the good news that he truly is enough changes everything about how we relate to God, ourselves, and the world. In each episode, a different person shares about what it's looking like for them to seek to centre their life on Jesus right now. As we hear their stories, we get to learn together and to encourage one another in what it means for Jesus to be at the centre of our lives. This is a journey we are all invited to, and a conversation we all get to be a part of. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name's Adrian, and it is so good to welcome you to this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. And it's my privilege to introduce today Jenna, who's going to be sharing. It is good to see you, Jenna.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's going to be good. I wonder if I could ease you in by just asking you to share a bit about who you are and what your life looks like at this point in time.
Absolutely. I'm Jenna. I have a lovely husband called Tom and two beautiful children, Eden,
Amazing,
who's 4, and Oliver, who is 6 months old. Yep, me and Tom have been coming along to Oasis Church technically since 2009, so quite a long time.
Yeah.
But I work for a ministry along with Tom in Selly Oak called Canvas.
Yes, fantastic.
That's student ministry, yeah. And I'm also sort of in the middle of a master's that I'm doing on theology. Having a 6-month-old means I've taken a year's break from that, so I'm sort of right in the middle of that, and it will start up again in September, which I'm a little bit nervous about. But yeah, and obviously, I've got this new little baby around, so that's what most of my days look like. Life's very busy at the moment, especially this January, because I'm starting to ease back into some of my roles and responsibilities at Canvas again after being off for 6 months with a baby. So
yeah, well, it's not really off, is it?
No. Absolutely.
That's a pretty full-on off.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good snapshot, Jenna, into like what your life looks like at this point in time. Both some of the things that it's involving, some of the things you're entering back into, some of the things you're going to enter back into in terms of study. Sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
I guess then within that backdrop then, the big question I ask everyone each time is, what does living centred on Jesus look like for you right now?
Well, honestly, when I knew that this question was going to be asked, part of me went, like it was a little bit of a check, like how am I living centred on Jesus? Yeah. Because a lot of the time, on some days, certainly it doesn't always feel like that. It often feels like the children are at the centre, or other responsibilities or work things are at the centre, and the world seems to rotate around other things at times. Yeah. Certainly the things that I used to do that used to really help me to feel like I was placing Jesus at the centre, whether or not they were having the success that I hoped they were. Things like sitting and reading the Bible for a while or sitting in prayer. I mean, those things just aren't the same in this season anymore. I can hardly go to the bathroom without an audience of small children. So getting to sit and read the Bible like I used to enjoy just isn't really a thing. But I'm starting to come to see that might actually be a good thing. God might actually be using this season to teach me a different way of living centered on Jesus. Yeah. One that's maybe less in my control and in my hands. Yeah, I think nowadays it looks a little bit more like centering on Jesus through those little prayers of thankfulness or desperation as I'm playing with Ollie on the carpet of the living room, or as I'm giving Eden Calpol because she's got her 5th virus of the month from preschool or whatever it might be. And every day involves usually some sort of prayer of desperation as things are difficult, or some sort of prayer of thankfulness as there's just the joy of what life looks like with little kids. And that's one of the main ways I'm living centered on Jesus. And I think it's caused me to have to let go of my preconceptions of what it means to engage with God or connect with God. Let him meet me in the small, everyday moments.
Yeah, it's really good. Man, that is so beautiful. I think I reckon some people are listening to this just thinking, yeah, I can breathe out. Someone's feeling how I'm feeling. Someone's thinking how I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think firstly, just thanks for your honesty. Is like, it just is like that, isn't it? Yep. I want to live centered on Jesus, but other stuff gets in the way.
Absolutely.
And I'm in this moment, and I love it. I'm in this moment of realizing I've got to let go of some of the things I used to think it meant in order to discover what it does mean in this moment to live centered on Jesus. And I love it of those moments of the prayers of desperation, the short prayers of thankfulness, the moments of just saying, actually, let's just ensure I'm just taking each and every moment within the ordinary of life to encounter you, God, rather than feeling like, no, I've got to take myself out.
Yeah.
But God, you're going to encounter me in this. It's just really good. And I just think people will hear this, just thinking, oh yeah, that resonates with me.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. I guess then my follow-up question, you've already said some of those things of just, I'm starting to discover new ways. The quick prayers, the taking moments throughout day-to-day life. Are there other things that are helping you at this point in time?
Yes. I think over these last few months and really these last few years, because this feels like the season I've been in since having Eden 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I think God's really placed people, mostly a lot of women in my life, that have come alongside me and supported me and been a part of that. One of my friends who I was doing my master's with, we would drive up to Nottingham once a week, every week. And just having those conversations on that drive to and from was so encouraging. It was a great way to sit and reflect and sort of recenter my mind on, what's going on in my life at the moment and how is God moving in my life and what am I learning? And so that was certainly a little moment that was really great. But I truly believe God's placing all sorts of people in front of me. I had this incredible friendship with two women. Eden goes to a tumble tots class. I take her to that every week, or I did. And she made friends with these two other little girls and they played together and they had the best time. So naturally, us mums of these little girls got to know each other. And we were several weeks into our friendship, meeting up and spending time together and just kind of in our conversations talking about what our lives look like. We were like, oh, so you're a Christian too, and so are you. And you go to Vineyard Church, and you go to Church Central. I go to Oasis.
Amazing.
And it was like, of all the people that my daughter could have made friends with in this class, it just felt like a moment where God had just brought her some friendships and brought us some friendships with like-minded people who were also trying to live centered on Jesus. So that was fantastic, and we don't see each other as much now that Eden's not at Tumble Tots, but that was a really treasured time and a really needed friendship in that time. I think another thing that helps me live centered, if I'm just being really honest, like working for a ministry helps, where I could get swept up into the day-to-day of looking after the kids. Working for Canvas really helps recenter me. If I'm meeting with students or inviting them over to our home to spend time with us, and just thinking on, what do I think about Jesus? How does he impact my daily life? Because this is what I'm supposed to be sharing with others. And so that really helps. Working in a ministry kind of, I don't want to say forces, but kind of encourages you to be thinking about that more often. And
that's really good. I love that. I love the reality of what's helping me? People. Yeah, but I can't do this by myself. And what God's kindly done is often drawn people around you that at this moment allow me some encouragement that just keeps me saying, I can, it's not going to be all the time, but this moment is just a check-in. Yeah. Like, what's it looking like to keep Jesus, you at the center? It's really good. And I love it of just saying, for you in terms of the work you're doing, but I was actually thinking, this would be true for anyone in terms of work, is that being drawn outside of yourself, say, okay, now in this setting that's outside of me, how do I get to be more like you, Jesus? Yeah. Yeah. And how do I get to reveal you to these people out around me? And just really good of that's not come up. If people say, I think my job can help me do this. Yeah, absolutely. Really
yeah, absolutely.
I guess then the next question is this some of the stuff that's helping you keep centered on Jesus? Like, what are you discovering then at the moment about who God is as Father, Son, and Spirit?
Yeah, I think over the past few years, I feel like that verse about renewing your mind, Paul says, that's been something that I really feel like has been happening to me over these past few years, in part because I don't think you can study theology without kind of having to rethink a lot of things.
Yeah.
But also, like I've shared about how my understanding or my concept for what it meant for me to relate to God and engage with God was very specific, read the Bible in this way, take time to pray in this way, and actually having to release the hold on those sorts of things. What I feel like I'm discovering more and more about God is just how much bigger he is than my understanding or the categories that I like to label God with or put God into. Years ago, I think my understanding of my faith would have been short and sweet and simple. You believe in Jesus, repent, he saves you.
Yeah.
Done. That's great. And while that's still absolutely true, and I think
yeah.
there's a beauty to the simplicity of that, some of the questions I'm asking more at the moment is, how does that work? How does Jesus save you? And what does that look like? And what about those that don't believe? What about those that don't have a chance to hear about Jesus? For me, like understanding and believing that God is all loving to all people, I'm just having to kind of expand my understanding and just be happy with the uncertainty and be okay with the fact that maybe actually sometimes I can almost believe in some contradictory things and be okay to sit in that grey space trying to work it out and just trust that to God, I guess.
Yeah, it's really good, Jenna. I think it's that, again, as you started off with that breathe out moment, it feels like a breathe out like moment again of he's way bigger than I realise.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And the invitation to go in and see more of him doesn't undo what you've known or kind of undo, oh no, is God there? It rather is, oh God, you're so much bigger.
Yeah.
And actually I can sit sometimes more confidently with questions.
Yeah.
And considering, okay, what does this look like? I don't quite know.
Yeah.
But I'm getting to see more and more of who you are.
Yeah. It is, and it is so good. And sometimes, to be honest, it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it feels challenging because you want a correct answer or you want the right way. But I think there is something disarming and beautiful and trusting in just having to be like, oh gosh, I don't know, and learning to hold them together. One of the best things one of my friends once said to me when I was kind of going through some of this and processing some of these things, kind of undoing some things that I thought about my faith and trying to make space for new things that I was starting to understand. She sort of said, if you have a room with a chair in it and you get more furniture that you need to put into the room, you don't throw the chair out and just get rid of everything for the room to put the new stuff in. You move things around to make room for it. And I hope that makes sense. But that was a sort of an invitation to be like, you don't need to throw out everything you thought before. You just might need to move some things around and have some different things in the same room at the same time and just like allow them to be for a little bit. So
oh, that's really good. Yeah. I'm not going to add anything. That's really good. Which brings us sadly to the last question.
Oh.
Like, how are you changing? If we were to have met you, I don't know, 3, 6, 12 months ago, like how would Jenna then look different to Jenna now?
Yeah. I think I've almost sort of said that is, I'm just more at peace living in the uncertainty now. I think that was very scary to me before. But I've kind of made my peace with that, recognizing that God's just so much more mysterious and so much more amazing than I could ever conceive of. And just sitting in the grey area and sitting with the complicated parts of my faith rather than trying to put everything into a box or make everything black and white. Yeah, I've had like years of trusting in God for our family's provision and through all those moments of worry about like health of the children or the way that I'm raising them. Am I doing this right? Or complicated questions about God. And particularly at the moment in this season, the constant state of flux, being pregnant, not pregnant, on maternity leave, not doing a master's and pausing it. And there seems to be a lot of back and forth and a lot of uncertainty. But I think God's helping me to grow more confident in those different parts of my life that I'm juggling and yeah, like I said, at peace with the fact that living centered on Jesus just looks different for me right now, and that's okay. And maybe one day I'll get back to doing some of the things I used to love to do to engage with and connect with God. But actually, maybe this season's going to be one of really learning, changing, renewing my mind, and just there'll be a deeper closeness with God as He decides how I engage with Him more and connect with Him more, and less of me trying to decide that.
It's good. It's good, Jenna. I think what doesn't get conveyed through hearing something audio-wise is just seeing you.
Yeah.
And what I see is someone who just is at peace. As you're speaking, it's like, yeah, I'm just learning within the uncertainty. Yeah, I can just know peace.
Yeah.
And there's a growing sense of confidence in that. And that just it just resonates from you. You can see it. See it in your face. As always, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And I make no apology of saying the next statement, which is this: my heart is well and truly full. As these conversations do it, they just do me the world of good. And out of all of the beauty and wonder that you've shared, I think the thing I'm going to consider is actually I'm going to take some action. As I too am thankful for many different people in my life who help me stay centered on Jesus. And I think over the coming week, I just want to talk to, message and thank a few individuals who just really profoundly help me stay centered on Jesus. That's what I'm going to do. How about you, my listening friends? What are you going to do out of the wonder and beauty of all that Jenna has shared with us? And lastly, I just want to thank you for listening, and I want to pray for each and every one of us. I pray we would know more of the wonder of living centered on Jesus this coming week. Amen.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Living Centered podcast. New episodes are released every Monday, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe on your chosen podcast provider to receive them direct each week. Living Centered is produced by the team at Oasis Church in Birmingham, UK, and you can find out more and get in touch with the team via theoasischurch.com.